The jury verdict is in, and Sean Diddy Combs was found not guilty of racketeering conspiracy, not guilty of sex trafficking, and guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. I can't read the minds of the jurors, so I don't know why they acquitted on the more serious charges. I wasn't in the courtroom during the trial, but I've been listening to folks who attended the trial. I've been watching their reporting throughout the trial. So here's my take on why the jury verdict came down as it did. The prosecution's case didn't match up with the prosecution's opening statement. Apparently, the prosecutor mentioned that 4 victims would testify, but only 3 testified, which isn't terrible, but then the prosecutor drops one of those 3 victims from the verdict sheet. So at the end of the trial, the jury has only 2 victims after being told there would be 4. Even 4 victims isn't a huge number for a sex trafficking enterprise. So to bring 3 witnesses in only to drop one of them, in my view, the prosecution made an unforced error there. The prosecutors are very smart, some of the best in the nation, but it was a 6-week trial, and it was the biggest trial of their careers. They might have been running out of gas toward the end, which is the wrong time to run out of gas, because that's when the prosecution, the defense, and the judge decide what charges appear on the verdict sheet, along with deciding the jury instructions. The judge might not allow all of the victims on the verdict sheet, and maybe that's what happened here. Maybe it was the judge who forced the case to a verdict with only 2 victims. If the prosecution's evidence doesn't meet the burden of production, the judge won't even let the jury decide if they've met the burden of proof. The judge can just dismiss those charges even before the jury deliberates. Apparently, the prosecution voluntarily dismissed the 3rd victim, Mia, although she was a stronger witness than Jane, who appeared on the verdict sheet along with Cassie. Now, Jane had a bunch of lovey-dovey text messages for Sean Combs, which the defense team showed to the jury in lieu of Sean Combs' own testimony. I thought it was disastrous for the prosecution to have Jane on the verdict sheet rather than Mia. And the defense cross-examination of Jane apparently was very strong. Apparently, she only realized she was a victim of Sean Combs while in therapy. Now, that's different from Mia. They should have just kept Mia as the 2nd victim. However, it would have been better to show many more victims. Bring them all into court. The judge might not have allowed all of them to testify, but the prosecution could have kept the direct examinations short for maybe 5 victims, even 7 to 10 victims, instead of doing what the prosecution did here, going into graphic, minute detail about 3 victims and then dismissing one of them. Instead, the prosecution could have brought out just a few high-level details about a large number of victims. You don't need to describe excruciating details about freak-offs. And they don't need photo exhibits of hundreds of bottles of baby oil. A strong photo exhibit would have been the photo of pink cocaine because it's evidence of a crime, and that was one of their exhibits. But possession of baby oil is not a crime. As for the racketeering conspiracy, again, it's tough to establish with just 2 victims. In my view, Cassie was a victim of a racketeering conspiracy because in her case, Bad Boy Entertainment was used as a front to induce her to perform in degrading sex shows. The other victim on the verdict sheet, Jane, didn't have a music career. But the 3rd testifying witness, Mia, who was dismissed from the case inexplicably, kind of fits the profile of a Cassie because Mia had a career in music management. So in her case as well, Bad Boy Entertainment was used as a front to induce her to perform in degrading sex shows. She shouldn't have been dismissed from the case. That's, my view of the case. Although hindsight is 20/20 and I didn't watch the trial, so that's my caveat here. Of course, I don't know what kind of dynamics there were in the courtroom between the prosecution, the defense, and the judge, but it seems to me the prosecution could have been outfoxed. That's what it seems like. Because during closing argument, apparently, the lead defense attorney, Mark Agnifilo, got up in front of the jury in a sex offense trial and says, Cassie and Jane are beautiful women and they enjoyed sex. He said that, apparently. Now, if the prosecutor didn't pound her fist at that point and say, move to strike that comment, Your Honor, it's prejudicial. And I request a curative instruction because what these women experienced was degradation and coerced videotaped performance. Their one-on-one relationships with the defendant, Sean Combs, aren't at issue here. But apparently the prosecution didn't push back until the rebuttal. There were 6 prosecutors at the trial, all women, and I don't know if that sent the right message either. Why not have a couple of male prosecutors on the team who could model the right behavior toward female victims? I can speak more about this case later. The judge just denied bail to Sean Combs pending the sentencing hearing in October on the charges of transportation to engage in prostitution, for which he was convicted on 2 counts. They're both felonies. And this week there could be another bail hearing with the same judge, but the defense will be filing a writ with a higher court for immediate release as well. That's no surprise. I hope everybody's enjoying the 4th of July weekend. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.